What is going on, SoFi fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So SoFi announced their earnings, their Q1 earnings, and I want to go over some bullish sentiment that is happening behind the scenes and some other data points that you need to know. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Without further ado, let's get right to it. So currently up 0.68%, and of course they are piggybacking off of the whole JP Morgan earnings that just came out, which is absolutely epic, and it goes to show and maybe a signal of potentially what might be coming SoFi's way. So SoFi did announce on May the 1st in the pre-market, that's when they're going to be having their earnings. Definitely another event that you cannot miss as an investor. And when it comes down to this, ever since that was announced, you do see a little bit more bullishness that does happen. So for instance, once again, if you guys don't or haven't participated in any previous earnings, there is several different things people care about: earnings per share, revenue, future guidance, and so forth. Under the whole future guidance, that is basically the numbers, what they expect for the future. But under earnings per share, you do see right here that two analysts, or more so three analysts, recently jumped on board. Very bullish analysts, because it did go from the average estimate of -8 cents to -7 cents. So very much optimistic stuff is happening behind the scenes. And when it comes down to revenue, as you see right here for Q1 2023, it does look like four analysts jumped on board, but they kind of kept their average around the 441.64 million as far as an average. It did go up slightly, but again, it is what it is. No matter what, let me know your thoughts on that. When it comes down to revenue, as what you can see based on the actuals versus forecasts, SoFi always exceeds revenue. And when it comes down to earnings per share, no different than that, with exception of this one, they, for the most part, always exceed expectation. So SoFi is one of those stocks that I have no idea why it is still even at this price level. It should be significantly higher, especially with all of their actual results that they do get. So once again, May the 1st is something that you need to pay attention to. And on a side note, I am going to be live streaming that as well, so definitely make sure you subscribe and all that other fun jazz. When it comes down to tentative news, still no updates about the whole Wyndham Capital deal, all cash deal, because nobody necessarily knows at this stage in the game how much they actually did pay for it. Most likely we'll just have to wait until their earnings to find out, unfortunately. But if you are looking for a lot of good compiled information, transcripts, SEC filings, news, definitely take a look at Seeking Alpha. I have a link to them in the description below for a 7-day free trial. So take advantage while you can. And when it comes down to it though, like I said, it'll give you guys a quick overview of everything else that you need to know. As far as options activity today, you do see a lot of calls being purchased. So I think because of the whole JP Morgan earnings, like I mentioned, I think a lot of people are now optimistic on SoFi, which is kind of stupid mentality. The writing has been on the wall for a while about SoFi. And I actually like this tweet. It kind of puts it in perspective. The fact that in comparison, since May 2022, a lot of the fintechs, look at SoFi, only down 5.7% since May of 2022, versus a lot of other ones like even Upstart down 80%. So definitely you need to know exactly the type of stock that you are holding, and it is a diamond in the rough. As far as institutions, it unfortunately does show and signal that they've been taking a step back on really backing up the bus with SoFi, which I think rightfully so. There's a lot of kind of questionable data points that's been coming out, even today as well, with retail sales. It was a little bit worse than expected based on this. So the month over month was -1% versus the forecast was -0.4%. And a lot of institutions have been really watching, for instance, a lot of these data points to find and signal cracks in the system, and unfortunately this might be a little bit more of a potential crack. But again, I'm not financial advisor, so you guys do your own due diligence at the end of the day. When it comes down to it though, this was being spread around Twitter. So Supreme Court allows 6 billion student loan debt settlement. So this is over and above, outside of what Joe Biden did do about the broader efforts to reduce student debt. So again, people are talking about student debt, especially like I said, if there is cracks in the system, similar to what happened with the bank banking system. They got bailed out. I think a lot more potential bailouts coming from a consumer standpoint as well is going to be occurring most likely. But like I said, even though it is very much green, some things that you need to watch for as far as fib levels. As far as on the technicals, I'll start off with this. It is above the 100-day moving average and in the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band. So in that regard, fairly optimistic stuff. Looking here, it is at 49. So like I've mentioned in previous videos, it did need to go down a little bit to consolidate because at this stage, it was very much overbought, unjustifiably in reality. So it did have to go down a little bit. So currently at 49, so fairly neutral. A little bit more of a bearish sentiment, so red line above the black. Number of retail investors have been getting in for a while now, so like I said, that is pretty positive. And as far as fib levels, so currently $5.89, so it is once again between this S1 and the pivot. So 605 is something that you need to watch for, and conveniently it did bounce off of that today. So it does have a lot of good momentum behind the scenes, especially with a lot of other banks pretty much succeeding, the old school brick and mortar banks. So in reality, you have to take that information and double it when it comes down to fintechs, because they reduce a lot of those unnecessary costs and a lot more efficient in reality. But of course, like I said, these videos are for entertainment purposes only, and at the end of the day, I hope you are very entertained by all this. On a side note, if you are looking for a lot of good information, such as even analyst ratings and even the earnings per share, so forth, take a look at Interactive Brokers, link in the description below, just for a lot of this content such as this. But without further ado, appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. If you do like my SoFi content and want to support the channel, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that said, appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on SoFi.